There's a hole in the mountains of Abkhazia that swallows a rope faster than any cave on the planet, and the deepest anyone has ever gone inside it is over 2 kilometers straight down. Deep enough that the pressure alone would be dangerous. Deep enough that a fall from the entrance to the current known bottom would take you past the height of 2 Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other. Divers have drowned trying to find where it actually ends. Nobody has. It's called Krubera Cave, and the strange part isn't just the depth, it's that every expedition that pushes further finds another passage waiting below the last one, like the mountain itself keeps changing its mind about where the floor is. Let's go down and see how far people have actually gotten.
This is the entrance to Krubera, tucked into the Arabika Massif, and it doesn't look much from above. Just a jagged crack in limestone, maybe wide enough to fit 2 people standing shoulder to shoulder. But that crack connects to a vertical maze that drops 2,197 meters below the surface, confirmed by cave divers in 2012, which still makes it the deepest known cave on Earth. To put that number somewhere real, it's deeper than the ocean trench divers usually train in, deeper than 3 Eiffel Towers stacked end to end. And the part that gets me every time is that this isn't one clean shaft. It's hundreds of separate drops, squeezes and flooded tunnels stacked on top of each other like a spine, and at several points the only way through is underwater. Getting to that number cost people years and at least 1 life. Arabika sits in the Western Caucasus, a limestone plateau riddled with cave systems the way a sponge is riddled with holes. Geologists call it a karst massif, meaning water has spent millions of years dissolving channels straight through solid rock. That's actually the reason a cave here can go this deep in the first place. Limestone doesn't just crack, it dissolves. So instead of one shaft, you get a branching network that can chase water almost all the way down to sea level. The region sits close enough to the Black Sea coast that cavers have long suspected the deepest passages of Krubera might actually connect underground to the sea itself, which is part of why the exploration never really stopped.
Here's what makes Krubera different from almost every other deep cave story. It wasn't one team making one discovery. It was a decades-long, genuinely obsessive competition. Ukrainian speleologists first pushed past 1,200 meters in 2001. A joint expedition broke 2,000 meters in 2004, the first cave on Earth ever confirmed past that mark. Then, in 2007, a diver named Gennady Samokhin swam through a flooded passage at the known bottom and found the cave kept going, adding another 100+ meters that nobody even knew existed. Every time someone declared a final number, the cave produced another gap in the floor. And in 2012, that same diver went back one more time into water so cold and passages so tight that most people would call it suicidal, and confirmed the number that still stands, 2,197 meters. He didn't find an end, he just ran out of cave he was willing to risk. A trip to the bottom isn't a hike, it's closer to a military operation. Expeditions have taken up to 27 days underground one way, hauling food, oxygen and camping gear through squeezes so narrow that some cavers have to exhale to fit. The temperature stays a steady 4 to 6 degrees Celsius the entire way down, cold enough that hypothermia is a constant risk, even while working hard enough to sweat. And several sections are fully submerged, not ankle deep, but sumps you have to dive through in full gear, in total darkness, with zero visibility if you kick up the silt. Get injured at -2,000 meters, and the nearest hospital is, functionally, several days of your own effort away. That single fact is why so few teams have ever gone back for a second confirmed run.
And here's the detail that turns this from an extreme sports story into a genuinely strange one. Krubera isn't empty. Biologists have pulled species out of its depths that exist nowhere else on the planet. Blind, pale invertebrates that have adapted to total darkness so completely that some have lost pigment and eyes entirely, evolving in isolation for what's estimated to be millions of years, sealed off from the surface by the same drops that nearly killed the divers who found them. One spider species discovered near the bottom is now considered one of the deepest dwelling land animals ever recorded. Nobody planned to find life at -2 kilometers. It was just already there, waiting in the dark long before anyone brought a rope. So the obvious question, is 2,197 meters actually the bottom, or just where the last person willing to dive it decided to stop? Most cavers who've worked Krubera will tell you honestly, probably the second one. Dye tests and water tracing studies suggest some of the deepest flooded passages may connect underground all the way to submarine springs that surface in the Black Sea itself, which would make Krubera not a sealed pit, but one section of a system that effectively reaches sea level through water nobody has ever swum. If that's true, the bottom isn't a wall of rock at all. It's just the last point where a human being could still breathe. Newer expeditions have found side passages that go deeper still and simply haven't been fully surveyed, which means the number 2197 might not even hold for much longer.
What actually sits with me about Krubera isn't the depth record. Records get broken. It's that an entire ecosystem, an entire hidden layer of the planet was sitting under this one unremarkable crack in the rock the whole time, completely undisturbed until someone decided to find out how far down a mountain could go. We haven't run out of cave. We've just run out of people brave enough or foolish enough to keep swimming into the dark to check. I've dropped the coordinates of the entrance in the description if you want to see it from above yourself. And if you know a place on this planet that still hasn't given up its bottom, its top, or its explanation, drop it in the comments. I go looking for the next one there.